The signal from the stars. The signal came in during third shift, when most of Outpost Sentinel was running on skeleton crew. Lieutenant Maya Chen was the only one monitoring the deep space communications array, fighting off sleep with her third cup of synthetic coffee when the console lit up with an unfamiliar pattern. At first, she thought it was a glitch. The outpost, situated on the fringes of human space, picked up all kinds of cosmic noise. But this was different, structured, repeating, with a harmonic pattern that no natural phenomenon could create. System, analyze signal pattern and compare to known species communications. Maya commanded, suddenly alert. Signal matches Ceridian communication protocols with 97.4% certainty, the AI responded. Message contains emergency bandwidth markers. Maya straightened in her chair. The Ceridians, a species of crystalline beings known for their advanced biotechnology and pacifistic society. They resided in the Orion Spur, nearly 30 light-years from the nearest human colony. "Wake the captain," she ordered. Priority 1. Captain Darius Reinhardt arrived 6 minutes later, still fastening his uniform jacket. At 53, with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 interstellar conflicts, he didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Show me." Maya brought up the signal pattern on the main display. "It's been broadcasting for approximately 20 minutes, sir. Continuous loop, emergency protocols. I've initiated translation algorithms." The translation flickered onto the screen. "To any sentient species who values life. The hegemony attacks without provocation. Our defenses have failed. Billions of civilians. We cannot match their weapons. Help us." Reinhardt's expression hardened. The hegemony. Damn it. Everyone knew about the Vrexel hegemony, a militaristic empire that had been expanding aggressively for the past century. Multiple species had already fallen to their conquests, their populations enslaved, their resources stripped bare. Until now, they had carefully avoided conflict with any major power, including humanity. "Sir, the Ceridians aren't part of the alliance," Maya pointed out. "We have no formal obligation to respond." "I'm aware of the politics," Lieutenant Reinhardt said, his voice tight. He tapped his comm unit. "Connect me to Admiral Hassan. Priority Alpha." While they waited for the quantum communication to establish, Maya brought up a star chart showing the relative positions of Earth, their outpost, Ceridian space, and the last known locations of hegemony forces. Admiral Hassan's hologram appeared, her expression already grave. "I've received the signal forwarding, Captain. I've also received 3 communiques from the Galactic Council urging us not to intervene. The Council would prefer we let another civilization fall." Reinhardt couldn't keep the disgust from his voice. "The Council fears escalation. If we engage the hegemony directly, it could trigger a full-scale galactic war." Hassan's image flickered. "But off the record, Captain, I've already ordered the 7th Fleet to prepare for emergency deployment." Reinhardt nodded. "The Ceridians have advanced medical technology that has saved millions of human lives. We owe them." "My thoughts exactly. I'm sending deployment orders now. The Indomitable will serve as your flagship." Hassan leaned closer to the camera. "Darius, be careful. The Council may not support this operation, but Earth Command does. Remember, this is a humanitarian mission. Rescue the Ceridians if possible, but avoid unnecessary engagement with hegemony forces." "Understood, Admiral." When the communication ended, Maya turned to her captain. "Sir, why would the hegemony attack the Ceridians? They're peaceful. They have no strategic resources the hegemony would want." "They have knowledge, Lieutenant," Reinhardt said. "The Ceridians are the galaxy's foremost experts in genetic engineering and cellular regeneration. Imagine what the hegemony could do with that knowledge militarized." Within hours, Outpost Sentinel transformed from a quiet monitoring station to a military staging ground. The 7th Fleet arrived in 5 massive jumps, ships emerging from hyperspace in precise formation. 27 warships, ranging from agile corvettes to the massive dreadnought Indomitable. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Reinhardt stood beside Fleet Admiral Corey, watching as officers prepared for another hyperspace jump. The Council has formally censured Earth for this operation, Corey informed him, her voice low. Called us aggressive primitives again. Reinhardt snorted. They'd been calling us that since we made first contact. Deathworlders, primitives, savages. Yet every time their sophisticated civilizations face something they can't handle, who do they call? The humans, Corey agreed with a grim smile. Status report. Commander Vasquez stepped forward. Fleet is ready. Admiral. Jump calculations complete. Estimated arrival in Ceridian space in 47 minutes. All ships, battle stations, Corey ordered. Weapon systems hot, but safeties engage. We don't fire unless fired upon. The fleet moved into hyperspace with synchronized precision. The stars stretched into lines, then swirled into the blue-white vortex of faster-than-light travel. During the journey, Reinhardt reviewed everything they knew about the hegemony's combat capabilities. Their ships relied heavily on energy weapons and sophisticated targeting systems, technology more advanced than human equivalents. But human warships had advantages of their own. Redundant systems, heavy armor, and kinetic weapons that most alien species considered obsolete, but were devastatingly effective against energy shields. More importantly, human crews could endure conditions that would incapacitate most alien species. High-Q maneuvers, radiation exposure, sleep deprivation, the very adaptations that had evolved on Earth's punishing environment, now gave them an edge in space combat. As they approached Ceridian space, the tactical officer's voice cut through the tense silence. Multiple contacts detected. Reading energy signatures consistent with hegemony battlecruisers. Count. 35. No, 40. Still counting. Curry's expression remained impassive. Show me. The main view screen switched to a tactical display. The Ceridian homeworld, a beautiful blue-green planet with 3 moons, was surrounded by hegemony warships. The planet's orbital stations lay in ruins, debris fields spreading in lazy circles. On the surface, fires were visible even from space, entire cities burning. Life signs on the planet. Reinhardt demanded. Detecting approximately 3 billion, concentrated in the equatorial regions, the sensor officer replied. Also detecting hegemony ground forces. They've established landing zones in multiple locations. We're too late to prevent the invasion, Corey said quietly, but we can still save who's left. Before they could issue orders, the communications officer interrupted. Incoming transmission from the hegemony flagship, Admiral. The view screen changed to show a Vrexel commander, tall, with iridescent scales and vertical pupils in yellow eyes. Human vessels, this is Supreme Commander Kirixash of the Vrexel hegemony. You have entered a restricted military zone. Your presence here violates hegemony sovereignty. Withdraw immediately. Admiral Corey stepped forward. This is Fleet Admiral Corey of the Terran Alliance. We are responding to a distress call from the Ceridian people. The Ceridian homeworld is recognized as sovereign by the Galactic Council. Your forces are conducting an illegal invasion of a peaceful civilization. We demand you cease all military operations and withdraw. The Vrexel commander's scales rippled, a sign of amusement or contempt. The affairs of the hegemony are not subject to your primitive notions of legality. The Ceridians possess knowledge that belongs to the greater galaxy. We are liberating that knowledge by bombarding civilian population centers. Reinhardt interjected, unable to contain his anger. Unfortunate collateral damage. The Ceridians refused our generous terms of surrender. Kirixash leaned closer to the camera. Humans, you are known to us. Deathworlders, violent, unpredictable, but primitive in your technology and thinking. This is your final warning. Depart or be destroyed with the rest of this world. The transmission cut off. For a moment, silence hung on the bridge. Then Corey turned to her command staff. Well, she said calmly, they've made their position clear. Battle Plan Theta 9. Deploy the fleet in defensive formation around the planet's southern hemisphere. That's where most survivors are concentrated. Corvettes to establish perimeter, cruisers to provide fire support, and prepare landing craft. We're going to evacuate as many Ceridians as we can. And the hegemony ships? Reinhardt asked. Curry's expression hardened. If they fire on us, we respond with full force. Commander Vasquez, load Hellfire missiles in all tubes. They want to see what primitives can do. We'll show them. As the human fleet moved into position, the hegemony ships turned to face them, energy weapons charging, the opening volleys of light already streaking across the void between the armies. When Deathworlders go to war. The first barrage from the hegemony ships lit up space like artificial stars. Precision energy beams designed to slice through shields and armor alike. Admiral Corey watched impassively as the deadly light show approached her fleet. Evasive pattern Delta, she ordered calmly. Corvettes, deploy chaff. Human ships scattered in practiced formation, smaller vessels releasing clouds of metallic particles that scattered the energy beams. Several hit their marks nonetheless, leaving scorched furrows across the hulls of 3 human cruisers. Damage report, Corey demanded. Minimal structural damage to Athena, Hephaestus, and Poseidon. Commander Vasquez reported. No casualties. Outer armor layers compromised but holding. The hegemony commanders, watching from their flagship, were confused by the human response. Where were the devastating counterattacks? The humans were just absorbing their fire. What they didn't understand was that human warships were designed fundamentally differently from those of other species. While most advanced civilizations built elegant vessels with sophisticated energy shields, humans still relied on meters-thick layers of reactive armor, a design philosophy born from thousands of years of terrestrial warfare. Hold fire, Corey ordered, surprising her officers. Continue evasive maneuvers but maintain course toward the planet. Captain Reinhardt stepped closer. Admiral, let them waste energy, she explained quietly. Every shot they fire drains their capacitors. Meanwhile, we're gathering targeting data. The hegemony continued their barrage for nearly 10 minutes, their beams becoming noticeably less powerful as their weapons drained. When the enemy fire finally slackened, Corey gave a predatory smile. Now, she said, all ships, open fire. Kinetic batteries only. The human response wasn't the elegant energy weapons the hegemony expected. Instead, massive electromagnetic railguns hurled tungsten rods at a significant fraction of light speed. The simple projectiles carried so much kinetic energy that they punched straight through the hegemony's energy shields, shields designed to disperse energy weapons, not stop physical objects. 3 hegemony cruisers erupted in silent explosions, their hulls shattered by the primitive but devastatingly effective human weapons. Direct hits on multiple targets. Tactical reported. Enemy vessels altering formation. They're adjusting their shields, Reinhardt observed, switching to multi-spectrum coverage. Corey nodded. As expected. Communications, broadcast on all frequencies, first contact protocol language package included. She stepped before the communications array. Hegemony vessels, this is your final warning. We have demonstrated only a fraction of our capabilities. Cease your attack on the Ceridian homeworld and withdraw from this system, or we will be forced to eliminate your fleet entirely. The response came swiftly, not in words, but in a new form of attack. The hegemony ships launched swarms of automated drones, thousands of them, each armed with a miniature version of their energy weapons. Defensive batteries, target those drones, Corey ordered. Marines, prepare for boarding operations. Even as point defense systems began tracking and destroying drones, shuttle bays throughout the human fleet opened. What emerged weren't the expected counter-drones, but rather small, heavily armored craft carrying human soldiers. On the bridge of the hegemony flagship, Supreme Commander Kir Exash watched in disbelief. They're sending troops, in the middle of a space battle. The concept violated every principle of modern warfare. Target those transports. But the human transports moved with unexpected agility, using the debris field of the destroyed orbital stations for cover. Before the hegemony gunners could lock on, the first transports had already attached themselves to the hulls of 3 hegemony destroyers. "What are they doing?" Carrick Sash demanded. The answer came moments later when alarms blared throughout his fleet. Somehow, the humans had bypassed the ship's external defenses and were inside. Colonel Maya Chen, now leading the 5th Marine Expeditionary Unit, cut through the hull of a hegemony destroyer with a plasma torch. Her powered exoskeleton, a technological compromise between human ingenuity and the limitations of their material science, enhanced her strength and protected her from the hostile environment. Breach successful, she reported as the circular section of hull fell inward, deploying strike teams. 50 Marines in similar exoskeletons poured through the opening, their weapons at ready. The Vrexel crew members, accustomed to fighting at a distance with energy weapons, were unprepared for close-quarters combat against physically superior opponents. The Marines moved through the ship with practiced efficiency, securing critical systems and disabling weapons. Similar scenes played out on other hegemony vessels. The aliens had never encountered a species willing to engage in such primitive tactics, physically boarding enemy ships rather than destroying them from a distance. Meanwhile, the main fleet battle continued to favor the humans. Though outnumbered, their ships absorbed punishment that would have destroyed vessels from other species. The hegemony's sophisticated targeting systems struggled against human electronic countermeasures, simple but effective jamming techniques that introduced just enough uncertainty to throw off autonomous targeting. Admiral Reinhardt reported, Marines have secured 2 destroyers and a cruiser. Colonel Chen reports they've accessed the hegemony battle network. Curry's eyes widened slightly, the only indication of her surprise. That was faster than anticipated. Have them transmit the virus. The virus was another example of human unconventional thinking. Rather than trying to hack the advanced hegemony systems, a nearly impossible task, human cyber specialists had created a program that simply flooded their communication channels with junk data. Not elegant, but effective. Throughout the hegemony fleet, command systems suddenly slowed to a crawl. Communication between ships became garbled, and targeting computers struggled to distinguish friend from foe. The enemy is in disarray, Tactical reported, detecting multiple friendly fire incidents among hegemony vessels. All ships push forward, Corey ordered. Establish a defensive perimeter around the population centers. Deploy ground forces for evacuation operations. As the human fleet broke through the disorganized hegemony blockade, landing craft descended toward the Ceridian cities. Unlike the invaders, they came not as conquerors, but as rescuers. On the surface, Lieutenant Commander Jackson led the first relief team into the crystalline structures of the Ceridian capital. The beautiful architecture, structures that had stood for thousands of years, lay in ruins, shattered by hegemony bombardment. Ceridians, their translucent bodies pulsing with distressed bioluminescence, emerged cautiously from hiding places. "We received your distress call," Jackson explained through a translator. "We're here to help." The Ceridian Elders' crystals harmonized in surprise. "Humans, the Deathworlders came to our aid." "We did," Jackson confirmed. "Medical teams are setting up emergency facilities. We'll evacuate as many as we can." As human medics treated injured Ceridians, military engineers established defensive perimeters against the hegemony ground forces that were already advancing toward the population centers. In orbit, the battle reached its climax. The human fleet, though suffering damage, had positioned itself between the hegemony and the planet. Several hegemony ships had been captured or disabled, others destroyed, and the remainder were retreating to a defensive formation. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Curry received an incoming transmission. "Supreme Commander Kir Sash," she acknowledged as the Vrexel's image appeared. "This engagement has proven educational," the commander said, his scales now a dull gray. a sign of anger or frustration. Your species fights with unusual methods. We fight to win, Corey replied simply. And we fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The hegemony does not surrender, Sash stated. But we can recognize when a tactical withdrawal is prudent. This world holds less value than anticipated. A wise decision, Corey said. Be advised. Any hegemony vessel that approaches this planet in the future will be considered hostile and destroyed immediately. The Ceridians are now under Terran protection. After the transmission ended, Reinhardt approached the Admiral. They'll be back with reinforcements. I'm counting on it. Corey smiled grimly. By then, we'll have evacuated most of the Ceridian population to safety and established a permanent defense grid. And when the Galactic Council hears how the primitive Deathworlders saved an entire civilization while they debated protocols, perhaps they'll reconsider their position on human membership. The evacuation continued for weeks. Human ships transported millions of Ceridians to temporary havens, while corps of engineers personnel helped restore vital infrastructure for those who remained. Throughout the sector, news spread of how the humans, the species others dismissed as primitive and violent, had risked their own extinction to save a civilization they barely knew. In the observation lounge of the Indomitable, Admiral Corey stood with the Ceridian High Council, watching as shuttles ferried survivors to transport ships. Our people have long feared the Deathworlders, the Ceridian Prime Minister admitted, crystals chiming softly. We believe that any species evolved under such harsh conditions must be inherently aggressive, dangerous. We can be, Corey acknowledged, when necessary. But you can also be protectors. The Prime Minister's crystals pulsed with new understanding. Perhaps this is the true gift of evolving on a death world. You fight not just to survive, but to ensure others survive as well. As the human fleet prepared to escort the refugee ships to safety, a message arrived from Earth. The Galactic Council, impressed by humanity's actions, had reversed its censure. More significantly, multiple civilizations had approached Earth with offers of alliance. It seems, Reinhardt observed as he read the report, that being Deathworlders might not be such a diplomatic disadvantage after all. It never was, Corey replied, watching the stars. They just needed to understand what that really means. We didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we protected each other. Now we'll protect them too. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying the survivors of one civilization and the hopes of many others, the message had been delivered across the galaxy. When a distress signal calls the Deathworlder Armada, those in need find salvation, and those who caused their suffering learn why humans were the most fearsome species in the galaxy. Not because they were savage, because they cared.